NFL on the Run podcast. The project is co-financed by the European Union.
Hello, welcome in our podcast. My name is Mara Arvai from Hungary, from Youth for Participation Association. This episode, we will speak about sustainability and nature. We have two amazing guests from our partnership. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Camilla Perin and I'm from Italy. I represent Studio Progetto Social Cooperative and I'm really glad to be here today with Carmen and Mara to talk about sustainability and nature.
My name is Carmen. I represent Ambitia Institute from Slovenia and thank you for having me.
Both of your organizations have very relevant methods, approaches, tools that you are using in your daily work with young people regarding sustainability and nature. Could you share some examples for your work that you consider that it could be useful and beneficial for other organizations just to learn from you? Carmen, if I can ask you to start.
I would like to first say that nature is not only a method, and sustainability is not only a method, and approach is also a value for our organization. So we did many projects related to the nature and the sustainability itself, mostly from two different perspectives. One is sustainability, so how can we preserve and help nature? But the other one is also the connectedness of young people to the nature, because 80% of young people lose the connection with the nature, and only 60% of those young people actually gain connection later on in their adulthood. So it was in our mission to keep promoting nature as a value and as a place of mental health, a place where you can feel connected to the world and, not this dissociation that the normal everyday life brings with the social media and stuff. So we are having two different approaches to spend as much time as possible with young people in the nature, trying to teach them a little bit of, I'm not going to say survival skills, but also to get rid of the fear of the nature, to get closer to the animals, not to be afraid of the ants and stuff like that. And on the other hand is the sustainability part, which is also very much important. We are very proud of the project Greendex, where we developed a carbon footprint calculator for the Erasmus Plus mobilities, which means that we are actually on every youth exchange or training course, we ask participants to calculate what was their travel to the place in order to recognize what was the carbon footprint there. And the calculator doesn't only calculate how much carbon dioxide they produced, but also how many trees do we have to plant to offset this particular carbon footprint. And this was by far, in our experience, the biggest impact that we have seen in people, because they could see the immediate impact on their own behavior. So this is like a very big aha moment.
So if I understood right, Greendex, it's a really nice tool which is available for everyone freely, that if you want to measure the impact on the environment of the local and European activities, like projects, what you are doing.
Yeah. There are also other methods there, like workshops and stuff that you can use according to the time you have on the project. So there's like already a scenario prepared for the youth workers to just copy paste and do it.
So it means that in this Greendex tool, they can already find some ready-made and adaptable methods as well, that how they can use. May I ask you, just because you mentioned in the beginning and it's linked to that one of the missions of your organization is to invite young people back to the nature, make some connection between young people and the nature in their other sense. If you can just say one example for a method, which maybe even can be found in the Greendex manual as well, like some really concrete method that you can suggest that this would be a useful one to try out to other organizations as well.
Yeah, sure. There's like many of them. We have a lot of exercises that are like simulation of decision making that is connected to the nature, but I don't want to go into details of that. What we also ask participants often, or young people often, is to, especially on the international projects, to calculate how many items they brought in their suitcases that cannot be recycled. And it's bizarre when they start to think pretty much everything that I brought it cannot be recycled. So it's now the average is around 55 items per person. So this is a big aha thing as well. But connection to the nature is mostly like cleaning the river, cleaning the space around our village, also spending time in nature as, I don't know, observing certain animals, trying to remember certain plants, planting the trees, because I forgot to mention Greendex is not just the calculation, but we also have established the first Erasmus Plus forest in Portugal, and we have planted over 270 trees there. So we're doing that and so on. So it's really dig in. And because one of the things that we have learned in our project is that also not only that young people are afraid of nature because they are thought that way, but also there's the emotion of disgust, like, the soil is dirty. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to be barefoot. Yeah, that's exactly what you want to do, go there. So we also try to walk barefoot, things like that, just to reconnect to it, which is the personal stuff. But the sustainability is something that is personal, but also external. So how can I give back to the world? But also to think of the practices that I have, the behavior, how to change it, and also to compensate with the planting the trees, the things that we cannot change at this particular moment, because either there is no technology available yet, or as we were talking before, for instance, Cyprus is an island. They cannot travel sustainable. So there's just a limit to what you can do in your behavior.
However, it seems that your environmental approach and sustainability approach of your organization is really complex. It's really based on small practical things till huge approach towards the soul and the physical reactions even towards the nature of young people. And plus this, your organization really improved an amazing tool, including methodology as well as the Greendex one, how you can help young people to feel again close to the nature, to feel again the part of nature. That's really an amazing example. Thank you very much, Carmen. And now I would like to give the floor then to Camille, that if you can share some amazing suggestions, ideas, experiences on behalf of Studio Progetto as well.
Yeah, for sure. We at Studio Progetto, we are actually implementing a project on environmental sustainability, specifically highlighting the importance of clean, renewable energy and ecosystem preservation. The project is called in Italian Le Valli dell'Energia Pulita, which can be translated into the valleys of clean energy. So as a method with students, we think that one of the best one is experiential learning. So rather than just sitting in a classroom, students are actively engaged with the environment around them. So they participate in mapping walking and biking trails, for example, that pass by local energy sites like the hydropower plants and conservation areas. We think that this hands-on approach helps students understand how renewable energy, like hydropower in this case, can coexist with nature and without harming it. So students also get to see firsthand how the environment is impacted by energy production and how they can mitigate those impacts. It's all about showing that the clean energy doesn't have to come at the cost of the environmental health. By now, we have involved almost 1,500 students in this particular project.
You mentioned that the project is really based on experiential learning.
Yeah.
Could you say an example at how?
Yeah, of course. We take children into the nature, and we also do some activity as environmental monitoring. So they study how healthy the aquatic ecosystem is. So it's really about first-hand experience, just not just sitting in the classroom and like hearing theory, but actually practicing it. So we really believe that bringing children into the nature and make them in contact with it could help them to respect it and take care of it.
Based on what you have said, I could imagine like this, that you take the kids, for example, next to your river.
Yeah.
And then maybe they just start to look for some animals or...
Yeah, like invertebrates, for example, like to study how healthy the river is, for example. They also can touch them, so they won't be scared of it anymore or disgusted by it, because some of the kids or young people can be. So I think it could have a long-term impact in their way of living the environment, and the nature.
Do you have any activities, then how you can measure the impact of these activities? How the kids change? Because as Carmen mentioned, that they have the Grindex tool improved. Do you have any similar one, or do you plan to use something maybe for that? It's like something that after these activities, maybe you can measure whether the kids are still disgusted or not.
Yeah. We try to give them questionnaires, very simple question, because of course they're kids, but on how their approach to nature has changed, for example, and if they are interested into nature and animals, those kind of questionnaires. Yeah, we give them that.
Well, it really sounds exciting. I'm really curious at how you can convince young people to participate in such type of activities.
Well, we have a relationship with schools. So we partner with schools and science teachers. So part of these activities are done during school time. So there is a partnership between us and schools. That's why.
That's a very good example for that. I think that how a social cooperative can cooperate with formal educational settings and schools. And it just came to my mind that this activity as well, it can be a nice part of youth exchange, for example.
Of course.
In an informal learning settings, in the youth work field as well.
Yeah, but for us also, we involved also a local association on environmental association, that helps us with the activities. They are experts on the field, so it's about, a partnership between schools and young people and local association that has the competencies in that field, and us who coordinates the projects,
So it means that your example is a really complex one as well.
Yeah, it's a bit complex project.
Not a bit. I think it's a good cooperation.
Yeah, but also it has its own results, we see that young people are more engaged in nature and they're willing to preserve it, especially nowadays with the climate crisis that we are going against, which I think it's a good way to make people more aware of it.
Thank you, Camille. This was really nice examples. During this project, you have met each other before and explored each other's work context. And just based on these examples, what you have shared just right now, if you can say some tips and hints for the others and even for your colleagues at home, that what you can learn from each other, what you can use from the methods, examples, best practices of each other, if there is any chance, for example, to adapt Grindex to your field or to adapt the experiential learning with water, clean water measurement to the activities of Ambitia, if there is any ideas or suggestions for each other.
I really enjoyed the method that Carmen used in youth exchange, especially counting how many not reusable items that people bring during exchanges. Because I think myself, I wouldn't be aware of how many things when I travel, I take that are not reusable or recyclable. So I think it would be a good practice to let also young know, but also myself, how many items we just use once, then we throw away. So that would be for sure a good practice that we would like to take into our daily youth exchange routine.
Well, the thing is, what we have learned on our projects is that it is important to have the connection of the mind and the heart, if you can say so. So is this cognitive relationship to the nature as sustainability, as the science you mentioned, Camila, in your project, but also, to connect on a personal level, to really start to love the place and the environment and the nature that you live in, because we forget that we are the ones who are, here and the earth is hosting us. So the combination of everything, I think it's important, to have this scientific cognitive element in the sustainability, as well as this, like you also mentioned, your personal touch with the environment, to touch the animal, of course, not to bother them, but nonetheless. So I like that. And what I also wanted to say maybe is another thing that we also try to do on the project, as we have a list of challenges. We challenge participants on the project to try to change the behavior, at least on the project. For instance, decide to take a shower only 3 minutes, or to shower with the cold water, or to pledge not to drink coffee for a day, or not to go and buy the bottled water or something like that. So these are tiny little behaviors somebody can change just to challenge if it's possible to survive, because everything is. So these are also very simple things, and people take it as a game game as a fun thing, which also, of course, is another level of learning. It's a fun thing and you challenge yourself, so it's a good thing as well.
Thank you, Carmen and Camilla. I think you shared really interesting stories about how young people can make an impact in local level and through European projects as well on the environment, how they can practice sustainability in their daily life and not just only in projects through challenges. Nice examples that how a corporation can do a great job in local level, inviting experts, cooperating with schools, with youth organizations, how to give the possibility to young people again to feel close to the nature just through experimenting, through participating in challenges. And Carmen, if you would like to say some words in the end as closing to this podcast regarding sustainability and nature.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say one more thing. We're often talking about the projects and often talking about the participants itself, but we forget that we also have to change the behavior on the organizational level. So for instance, what we do in our organization, we have an unwritten rule that we try to travel green as much as possible. But where there is no possibility, we never travel with the connecting flights. We always say it's only direct flights to as further you can go and then local transport. And this is already changing our perspective. We put much more effort into trying to find as sustainable travel as possible. And I'm sure there are many other tips that the organization can adopt to make their own management more sustainable as well.
Thanks for this really key point, because I think as organizations, it doesn't matter that if we are a youth organization or a school or a social cooperativa or a scout organization, whatever, we all the time showing an example and we are like role models of young people that we work with. So it's very important that we are doing exactly what we are saying to the young people. Thank you very much for your sharing, Camila and Carmen.
Thank